People don't buy what you do. They buy what it does for them. Prospects do not care about Dean, about his products, about his services. They care about there's a goal and I'm stuck here. How do I get there? How do I get out of where I am and to there? Understanding that, that's your message. Whether that's an outreach message, your content, your profile, your message is, hey, if you're here, I've got a way to get you there. And that's fundamentally the core of it. Too many people are saying, hey, this is what I do, and aren't I wonderful? And really, it's about, hey, where do you want to be? Where are you stuck? So it's buyer-centric. We've got to think about it and make it everything about our buyer. That's number one, fundamental. Number two, the more personal you make it, the more conversational you make it, the more it feels like you understand them, the better. And then the other bit I would say is in outreach or in content, you've only got maybe 9 words to hook them.
Before we dive into today's episode, please hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us grow and inspire more people on their journeys. Thank you. Hello, Dean. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Hi, Thomas, and thank you for having me. And I'm color coordinated with your background as well.
I should have changed for the pink one for your branding, actually.
Yeah. No, that's great to be on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And just a side note, I was going to say that I like your branding with your cool shirts because I've seen it across many pictures and I think it stands out and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and today I normally I'll tell you a funny. If we get time, I'll tell you the funny story of the shirts. But in the UK right now, it is absolutely freezing, so I am breaking my brand rules and keeping warm.
But actually, is it like a coincidence that you like to wear it, or did you start using it as a part of your brand?
So I'd love to say it was strategic decision, but it'll become clear why it wasn't. I went to Miami about 3 years ago, and it was really warm, and I bought all of these tropical shirts whilst I was there. And I came home, and the UK was having a real hot summer, I think it was. I think it was a heat wave. And so I thought, I'll wear them in the office. So I did, and I noticed that whenever I wore a bright colored shirt, my post did better. So I decided to wear the shirts all the time. But it gets horrific in the winter when you're sat in the UK in, even the office the heating in this office has been on forever, and it's just about pushing nice room temperature now, and it's nearly the end of the day. So I'm not brave enough to to own my brand in the winter.
But I hope that it doesn't bring bad luck to this episode since you're not wearing that.
Well, weirdly, when I don't do it, somebody usually comments and says, what happened to the shirts? So either way, I get engagement, whether I wear it or I don't now.
Yeah, but it's actually a funny one because I saw the recent post that you shared, the kind of automated DM when someone mentioned your shirt. I was like, well, although it's such a bad message, it's actually nice that the person highlighted the shirt. So it was quite cool.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, I did do a post about that, but the reason why it's clever that they mentioned the shirt, but then in the second half of it, they said, and you look interesting. So it's kind of like, I'm going to be really specific and then immediately follow it with something quite generic.
Yeah, that is true.
And the shirt bit isn't as clever as you might think, because the post I did a couple of days before that was me talking specifically about a shirt. So if it had been anybody else, it may have looked really, really personal. But because it was the way it worked, it was easy to detect. And it was like, the funniest bit of it was, Dean, I'll help you sell. It was a cold DM. And they said to me, do you want to get clients without cold DMs? So it's like, why can't you practice what you preach?
And I think it was really funny that they sent that DM to someone like you, like, do some homework. Why would you pitch social selling coach such a DM? But anyway, it was just a funny one.
It was a lazy Sales Navigator search that they'd searched for coaches and not done any filters, any
Yeah.
exclusion or anything, and it picked me up. Which a lot of people do. I'll never kind of shame a person, but if their message is bad, I will use it and show people what goes wrong.
Yeah, as an example, I agree. And Dean, before we dive into your expertise, I wanted to ask you if you can tell us if you are someone who's always been interested in selling and in this area, because I feel like that too many people, it's maybe like a topic that they struggle with or find uncomfortable like to
Mhm.
sell to other people. So what was it like for you, if you've been interested in it, or how did you discover passion for it?
I actually hated sales. I really hated sales. And I don't know when I got comfortable with it, but I guess it was when I started to think about it differently of I can help solve people's problem. And when you think about it like that, that changes it a little bit because the mentality of I've got to sell something, I've got to convince somebody to buy my stuff, that feels icky. But if I go, well, hang on a minute, all I'm doing is looking for people with a problem I can help them with. I don't know if somebody has that problem. And so suddenly I'm just trying to discover if there's a fit. And I know that word's overused, but if there's no fit, there's no sale. And if there
Mm.
is a fit, there's a sale. And I think the more you just think about it as having a conversation with people and seeing if they have a problem that you can solve, and you take all the pressure off yourself, the easier it gets. I think the pressure, that kind of, we call it sweaty palm behavior. When you're so eager, your palms are sweaty. If you get into that state, you will do things that are just weird, basically. So for me, it was the reframe of I can't sell to anybody, but I can help try and find people with a problem.
Hmm. It's really smart, but at the same time, then how did you get to such a reframe? Someone advised you, helped you, or was it natural progression?
It was actually many, many years of doing unsuccessful outreach and going, actually, if people aren't motivated, I've got no chance of buying anything. They've got no chance. They're not going to buy anything just because I can twist their arm. So I've got to find people who have a problem. So I need to just speak to their problem, understand it. And it was really, it was really probably my second sales job that I really figured this out. My first sales job, it was kind of, I marketed the sale. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point. I just heavily marketed and got sales. My second sales job, I had to find people with a problem, and I was far more forensic about how I approached it, looking for what were the kind of telltale signs that somebody would have this problem. And then I could speak to that in my outreach and my messaging. And so I got really tight on the pain points and challenges that people would have and talked about them. Whereas my first sales job, I just went, hey, look how good we are. Look how great we are. Look at this. We can do this. We can do this. But I did it so much, I mean, in crazy levels, that it paid off. But my second sales job, I thought about what are the telltale signs they need our help and they need what we've got to offer. And I focused on that. And actually, in 2 years there, I did 2.5 million in new business.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, in my job before, it took me 4 years to do 2.5 million. So I did it in double the time with less prospects and less convincing.
That's impressive. And if you don't mind me asking, if you like the beginnings were kind of challenging or harder, what was it that kept you like in such a job? Because if that was like the career that you wanted to do, because I assume that many people would give up if they don't see success or if it's not working. But for you, was it like maybe like a dream career or something that you always wanted to do?
I'll be honest, my first attempt at business failed. So I had to get a job. So it was money. The first
That's the
job was
reality.
money. Yeah. I just needed money. And then when I realized I was starting to be successful at this, I wanted more money.
Mm.
And when I got to that company, I saw that it was just a bigger company, bigger organization, more sophisticated in the way they did things. And so I realized I had to change the way I did it. So it was money that kept me there and debt, basically. After my first business, well, it didn't go bust, but it nearly did, and I was in a black hole in my, I was 21, 20. Think about this for a birthday present: 21 years old and $250,000 in debt.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
I needed money. So that's what got me in it, and that's what kept, and the debt kept me there until I could pay it off.
Yeah, that's the reality. And then if you saw such a success, like with your new approach and how it was working, what was the progress from there? Because I assume, or I can imagine that it helped you like with the confidence, with the skills. So did company try to promote you? Did you see it like as a way how to work for yourself or share knowledge with the others, or what were next steps?
Yeah, so around about the time I was working for other people, but around at the time that Facebook started to become like mainstream, so like 2009, 2010, I started to use it and go, this is interesting. And at that time, a lot of the sales work was driving to meetings all over the country or calling people and a bit of email, but not nowhere near like today. So there was a lot of travel. There was a lot of kind of cold calling. I hated cold calling, absolutely hated it. I felt like an idiot doing it. And so I saw Facebook as a potential opportunity to be able to sell things. And so I jumped ship and used basically social media as a way to build a business. So,
I guess that is smart. Yeah.
yeah, if you hate cold calling and then this way of doing things without cold calling comes along, you just go for it. And by that point, I'd made quite a bit of money. So I was in a better financial position. So it was like, let's take the risk, let's do it.
Yeah. And now, Dean, as you mentioned, it was around 2009 and time around that. Can you just, for the audience, maybe if they haven't heard of you before, because I feel like that these days there are a lot of coaches, people trying to sell on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, but I just want to show or mention your experience because I saw on LinkedIn how many years actually of the selling you've got of experience. So can you just briefly like say so that there is some kind of context that you are actually someone with real experience?
So, yeah, I've been teaching, doing, implementing social selling for 17 years of a fashion.
It's impressive number, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's morphed quite a bit, and I've changed platforms in that time. I was originally a Facebook person and became a LinkedIn person about halfway in, about 8 years ago, eight,
Mhm.
9 years ago, flipped to LinkedIn. But I mean, fundamentally, platforms are platforms. To really get good at social selling, which is what I'm a big advocate for, is actually understanding the humans on social platforms and how you engage with them one to one. So I've been doing it for 17 years. Mavericks existed for that time. It's morphed quite a bit. It was me on my own, and it's now 30 plus people in the team. You'll probably see me talking to a lot of small business owners on the platform, but actually, our corporate team will be training salespeople, sales teams, kind of all around the world. But my baby, my focus is basically helping people like me when I got started in business.
Yeah, that is impressive track record. I've seen the number of people that you help with. I believe you've got it on LinkedIn. And I saw even number of reviews, so I think it speaks for itself.
Cool. Yeah, I love it.
And before, as you said, you were on Facebook, which is a while ago. But what was like the shift to change the platform? I know that you've got a strong presence on LinkedIn, but I don't know if you maybe still use other platforms to sell as well, or you are fully focused on LinkedIn.
When I switched to LinkedIn, I pretty much ditched all the other channels, which on in hindsight was probably a mistake. But at the time, I didn't have the bandwidth to look after all the channels. So why did I switch from Facebook to LinkedIn? I think the big one was not being able to find the right people. If you look at Facebook, even today, it's very difficult to find exactly the right people. So, you can't tell whether they're a CEO of a company or they're the CEO of their bedroom, you know. And also, kind of LinkedIn is seen as business.
Mhm.
Some people even now feel like if you try and connect or friend request somebody on Facebook, it can be a bit weird if you don't know them.
That
So
is true.
there was that kind of weirdness of on LinkedIn, people expect to be connecting with people they don't know. On Facebook, it's a bit weird. The accuracy of the people, not knowing who you're talking to, or whether they're the right fit, whether the right industries, all of those kind of things. And also the massive change in the way Facebook worked. It's actually better now than it was. So Facebook's a decent opportunity now, believe it. I know that sounds strange me saying that, but it's actually a decent platform for business now. But it went through a phase where it wasn't. So I thought, let's make the jump to LinkedIn. And I'm happy I did. I just regret letting the other platforms go.
Yeah, yeah. I understand those are valid points. And for some context, can you mention again when did you join LinkedIn? Because I always like to remind to people and to the audience, for example, how long you've been showing up, because I believe that, or it seems like that people look for shortcuts and want to see quick results. So just to give some kind of context that you've been there for a while.
I've been there since 2011,
Oh wow,
properly.
that's a while, yeah.
Yeah. I think I had an account before that, but I can't remember what I did with it. So I think I merged my accounts, but the account I've got now is from 2011.
Mhm. I know that it's a
So,
long time, but can you do some kind of comparison, such as what was
oh,
people like
so
there and
if
now?
you think, so LinkedIn in 2000, and I can remember 2012, 2013 really well. So LinkedIn in 2012, you could post something and your connections actually saw it. You could post links to your blogs on your website and people would actually see it and click it. You could send messages to people and you were pretty much guaranteed a reply. And attention spans were decent. But it was a small group of people. Today, 2026, we got 1.2 billion users, I think it is now. But the attention, there's far more activity. People are on the platform more, but attention spans are shorter. So you have to be more creative in how you grab people's attentions. And everybody's overwhelmed with DMs from irrelevant people. And so you have to be more smart in how you approach people if you want more replies and more conversations. So it was kind of like old school. You could just go at it and it'd all kind of work out. Now you have to be really thoughtful and planned in what you're doing. You can't just show up and hope for the best. But there's a much bigger opportunity on LinkedIn today than there was back then.
I obviously don't have such experience like you do from before, but from my experience and point of view now, I agree with what you said. It seems like that as well to me. And if we focus on specifically on your area of expertise, such as selling, what is the landscape like? Do you feel like, I assume that more people emerged as there are more people, more opportunities. But from your experience, do you feel like that the competition is growing, maybe quantity over quality or still quality? What is it like?
Do you mean competition for what I do, or do you mean just competition generally?
No, what you do, like such as people selling as well.
Oh, oh, one man and his dog is a LinkedIn expert these days. Like anybody who was a salesperson who gets fired becomes a LinkedIn expert.
That
Um,
is true.
it's like, I think there's a couple of parts to LinkedIn, really, when you think about it. There's DMs, there's messages, and a whole load of other features. And what I'm trying to do is say to people that it's features are good, content's good, messages are good, but it's how you use them to get a result that matters. And I think there's a group of people on LinkedIn right now who are obsessed with metrics that don't mean anything. So, like likes, comments, impressions. And there's also a group who are doing large volume outreach. And both groups are on the belief that if I get more, I'll be more successful. And 15 years nearly of doing this, I can tell you, more does not mean more success. You'll have had this, Thomas. You will have had conversations with people and you look at their numbers, you look at their impressions, you look at all that stuff and you go, oh my God, I would love to have their numbers. And then they tell you how much they're making and you go, maybe not.
That is a good point.
So the numbers don't necessarily mean success.
Yeah.
And so what I'm focused on first, and it's not ignore metrics, it's not ignore engagement, it's not ignore all that. It's number one, let's make sure you have a plan to get ROI, irrespective of whether you get 10,000 followers or any of that. How can we get you success with the smallest number of people? Because if you get that, it will scale. But going the other way around, going numbers and hoping it will convert is dangerous. I'll give you an example of this, right? If you require lots and lots of engagement or lots and lots of followers or lots and lots of messages to get even a low level ROI, yeah, barely, baseline ROI, if you need lots of that, you have to continually scale. That means more and more prospects, more and more engagement, more. Well, here's the catch. Are you familiar with EasyJet?
Yes, the
EasyJet,
airline.
the airline? Yeah. Right. You know how EasyJet has got standard boarding and speedy boarding. So standard boarding, speedy boarding, you pay a little bit extra and you can go into a queue that gets on the plane first. What happens if EasyJet lets everybody have speedy boarding? It becomes quicker in the standard queue. And that is my point. If you think about the people on LinkedIn in your network as people, and you go, how do I engage that one person? And you do that. And I'll give you an example in my outreach in a second. If you think about profiles as people and really zero in on that, you'll get a higher conversion than the volume. I'll give you an example of that. I send 5 outreach messages a day, and I'll book at least 1 call a day, sometimes 2.
Oh, every day. Nice.
Yeah. 5 a day, every day. You really say 5 a day keeps the doctor away. Yeah. 5 a day. Really focused, really personal. And I'll book 1 call, sometimes 2. If you go to a cold email specialist or a cold outreach specialist and said, can I get a 22% meeting booking rate from that? They go, no, it's not possible.
In the early days, every part of podcasting felt like a separate task. I was jumping between tabs, chasing files, and doing everything manually. Once I started using Riverside, it all got way easier. I record, edit, cut clips, and add captions all in one place. It's helped me stay consistent without getting overwhelmed. If you want to make podcasting easier, check out the link in the description. It really made a difference for me. I would regret not asking you, Dean. I'm sure that we could have the whole masterclass and everything, but can you share then maybe some tips? You probably kind of answered it already, but in case there's still something for people who are struggling or kind of starting, maybe tips for the beginners, like a mistake that you see that people do, like some kind of advice.
So I'll start with the basic one, or the simplest one that people forget. People don't buy what you do. They buy what it does for them. Prospects do not care about Dean. They do not care about his products. They do not care about his services. They do not care about Dean. They care about, there's a goal and I'm stuck here. How do I get there? How do I get out of where I am into there? And understanding that that's your message. Whether that's an outreach message, your content, your profile, your message is, hey, if you're here, I've got a way to get you there. And that's fundamentally the core of it. Too many people are saying, hey, this is what I do, and aren't I wonderful? And really, it's about, hey, where do you want to be? Where are you stuck? So it's buyer-centric. We've got to think about it and make it everything about our buyer. That's number one, fundamental. Number two, The more personal you make it, the more conversational you make it, the more it feels like you understand them, the better. Yeah. And then the other bit I would say is in outreach or in content, you've only got maybe 9 words to hook them and then they're gone. If you don't resonate with them, if you don't provoke interest with them within the first 9 words in DMs or content, they're gone.
Yeah,
Attention spans are shocking.
it comes back to what we discussed before, that we are bombarded with the content and so much stuff around there, so it really needs to hook people.
So they're the biggies. And then the other thing I would say is I see this doing a lot, and I'm going to play a middle of the road approach here. If you are going to automate, right? If you are going to automate, I don't recommend automating outreach, but if you are, and so many people do, salespeople, the works, 2 things. At least test the messages first so you know what works. Don't just go, hey, I've drafted a lot of messages, let's fire it out. That's number 1. And number 2, segment your data. Like if you're going to outreach to 50 people with one message, make sure they're all the same type of persona, because you want the message to be as personal and as relevant as possible. Now, I advocate for one-by-one messaging, but not everybody's going to want to do that. But the closer you get to one-to-one messaging, the better the response rate will be.
Yep. So great advice. I think some people often forget how many messages you receive. So, for example, so many people pitch you, and honestly, it gets annoying after some time, especially if it's like a super generic one. So I like it. Don't be lazy with that. Customize it. Make it sound human, not those terrible AI ones. And that really makes a difference. I agree.
Yeah. Real good tip for whenever you're sending a message is read it out to yourself. And if it sounds weird, don't send it.
I would recommend people do it even when commenting on someone's posts.
Yeah, I mean, like if we were chatting now in real life and I went, oh, Thomas, I saw your profile. You look interesting. You'd be waiting for me to tell you to say what was interesting.
Yeah.
But on LinkedIn, for some reason, we just go interesting. Like that's the answer.
And I don't know if it's interesting, like, or am I weird, or what is interesting about me?
Interesting. Yeah. The other one is I came across your profile. Why?
I don't know what to say. I've seen such as well. It's funny. And Dean, when it comes to content and DMs, what's your preference, or what's like the maybe ratio that you would recommend people, whether to focus more on one or the other one, test both?
So I'll give you 2 answers. So my brain chemistry wants to do content. Like I really want to do content. Like I'm addicted. If I could post every hour, I would. Right? So there is a bias, human bias to want to share your voice with the world. That's the human bias. Messaging is the least pleasant because you're more likely to feel rejection. But if you post and just wait for people to come to you, you are handing all of your pipeline, all of your business to an algorithm that owes you nothing. And it could work brilliantly today. It could work brilliantly tomorrow, and then it's gone. So I would say to people, yes, post content, 100%. I love posting content. But predictability will not come from just posting and putting things out into the ether in terms of you know where your next client's coming from, because it might work tomorrow, it might not. So outreach gives you more control, but obviously emotionally has the biggest negative consequences of rejection and all that kind of stuff. And you just have to grow a pair for that, really. Having said that, I've been doing it such a long time. I've had very few negative experiences. Yeah, so it's not as bad as it sounds. Content gives you the best feeling, the best, all that stuff. And when leads do come in from content, it's fantastic. But I don't know when they're coming. I don't know when they're coming.
Mhm. I honestly find it relatable, and I would feel the same. And as you said, like with obviously some kind of resistance, or maybe it's like a step out of a comfort zone. Obviously, when you're sending DMs after so many years of experience, do you still feel it or not anymore?
Yes, you do. You do. It's not as dramatic. It's not as emotional. You know, I can remember. I can't remember the exact scenario, but maybe a few years ago. I'll tell you a funny story about my experiment with automation as well. But a few years ago, and we're talking maybe 5, 6 years ago, I sent a message to somebody and they reacted horrifically. It was me writing the message. It wasn't a robot. It was me writing the message. But one person took offense to me sending them a message, not just the message, just the act of sending them a message.
That's
And it was like,
terrible.
that's not, yeah, it's like, that's not okay, and all this kind of stuff. And it did shake me a little bit, and I did feel horrible for it. And then it was like, uh, really? Really? Like, and since then, that person has asked for my help, which was quite funny. So the more risk, the biggest embarrassment for me actually is, and it's never happened since, but I'll tell you about my automation mistake. It's never happened since, but the biggest embarrassment for me would be a professional embarrassment of hitting up a competitor trying to sell them. That post that we talked about earlier is exactly that. If I did that to somebody else, it would be more embarrassing for me to go, oh, what an idiot. Because, you know, a competitor knows what I'm doing, and it's like, ugh, you just look like an idiot in front of somebody else. So I think that's the biggest one for me. But do you want to hear my mistake?
Yes, of course.
So before commenting was a thing, like outbound commenting to get reach, I decided to use, this is like maybe 6 years ago, a tool whereby you could have a series of generic comments and it would put comments out on people's posts for you. It's the idea of I'm commenting a lot, it'll turn up a lot of stuff and it'll all come back to me. So I set up this automated, it was before AI. So I had these, 6 or 7 generic comments and it would randomly throw them out, right?
I hope it was a good post, insightful. And
It was, but it was before they were a negative. It was new back then.
okay, okay,
But it'd be saying great post name or inspirational name. And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
just running it every day. Now, I'm going to tell you the story. It's career ending potentially, but I've told a few other people. So you're getting an exclusive. Somebody announced that their child had terminal cancer. And I put, great post. Thanks for sharing.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah. Sorry to hear that.
That's why I say to people, be careful with automation, because I was more than an idiot. I was an insensitive, God knows what. I deleted it, thankfully, before
Oh,
anybody saw it. I think anybody saw it. But that is the dangers of doing things blind.
hmm. And if you don't mind me asking, how did you basically discover? Did someone comment? Did you check it later, or
Basically, a colleague of mine spotted me doing it and was looking and went, oh, you literally 2 minutes ago, you want to take it down.
okay,
I
yeah.
don't think anybody saw it. It was such a long time ago that LinkedIn wasn't as busy as it was now, that you had loads of creators on the platform. So commenting wasn't as big a deal back then, but I learnt my
Yes.
lesson.
Hmm. I hope that it serves as a lesson to people too out there, because let's be honest, that automated commenting sometimes feels like it's becoming like a regular thing. So people listen to this and try to learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, and Dean, I could be asking you so many questions when it comes to selling because I know you have experience, but I want to ask you also about your branding, because before we discussed branding when it comes to your shirt, and I also like your pink branding as well. But in your selling and whether it's presence on Facebook or then on LinkedIn, when did you actually start building your personal brand as well?
I don't know when I started. I guess everybody's doing it, aren't they? They're all building a personal brand. I guess the question is, when did I start building it with intention? So, seriously started in 2018, 2019. But to be honest with you, one of the challenges I had was I didn't want to be known as a LinkedIn social selling person. And so I had to wrestle with the fact that I was like, okay, this bit of my what I do, this bit of my expertise has kind of taken off and it's doing well and I'm making money. But I was so unhappy that the other bits, I didn't take off for the other bits. And so it felt like there was this struggle for like a few years of, yeah, I do this LinkedIn thing, but I don't want the label because I'm good at email, I'm good at this, and do that. It was like, so it was only really in 2020 when I went, just we're going in on this. Yeah, we're going all in. And that's when I accepted it that I'm a LinkedIn person. But for 2 and a bit years, I couldn't do it. I couldn't settle on it. So that's when it went with intention. And my model's a little different to a lot of other LinkedIn people in that we do implementation programs. So rather than courses, it's implementation. So the journey was, what do I want to be known by? Wrestling with what could I accept to be known by? Because that's a different story. And then the branding, the color schemes and everything, I've actually chopped and changed my color schemes. But I started in 2018 with pink because every other color was taken and everybody goes LinkedIn blue. So I went to pink, played around with a few color schemes for a while, and then went, no, I'm going back to pink. And the shirts really are just that kind of like, it just symbolizes this shouldn't be stressful. This shouldn't be overcomplicated. You can actually enjoy this when you make it straightforward.
I honestly like it because although we've never really spoken before or interacted much, but my impression, thanks to those shirts and even Pink Branded, was like he's someone positive, enthusiastic, and I just had like a good vibe. So I can confirm that it works. I think it was a good idea.
Yeah, I also like a good cocktail, but I'm not allowed to share them on LinkedIn because I can get in trouble.
Need to check out other platforms for that content.
Yeah.
And I saw, Dean, that you are present across other platforms as well, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and others, which it's impressive even with the consistency and the quality. So maybe the question is, how do you like manage everything? Because before the recording, as we are recording now, beginning of February, we discussed that you went for holidays and you got back from holidays and you keep posting quality, consistency. You're doing great. So what is your secret?
Well, what's the secret? I can't let my posting take an hour. So I have a 10-minute rule. Yeah. And the 10-minute rule is if I can't post something into whatever I've done in 10 minutes is going up because otherwise it's unscalable. It's not repeatable. So that's the first thing. Even to this day, I do have a team, social media team. They do more of the video editing and stuff like that. And they'll manage some of the things like podcasts and stuff like that. But the posting is coming from me for LinkedIn. And then what they'll do is they'll take what I've shared and they'll put it out in different formats and different places for me. But LinkedIn, I own myself. So when I replied to you this morning, it was actually me.
Thank you. I didn't want
So,
to chase you, but I appreciate it.
but that sometimes means I'm a little slow, but because I teach the platform, I have to be able to do the platform myself. Otherwise, I will just lose touch of what works. So I do my own outreach, do my own content, do my own Canva stuff because I want to keep in touch with how it works.
I honestly like the mindset, and of course, I appreciate it, especially considering how much work you do and there is around everything. So, thank you. And Dean, just to be aware of time, I like to ask kind of lighter questions by the end of the recording. So, what are some of your hobbies, or what is it that you like to do in your free time?
Oh, this is embarrassing. So I am a massive Star Trek buff,
Oh,
like
that's pretty cool.
huge.
Yeah.
Well, no, Star Wars is the cool one. Star Trek is the nerdy one. So I don't dress up as Mr. Spock or anything, but I don't know if you can see it here, but in my office I have all the replica spaceships. So that's a big thing. What else do I do in my hobbies? I actually like writing, believe it or not. So I do this is separate to my personal profile, but I love writing blogs and articles. I know that's pretty old school now. So I write about 3 of them a day, and I really
Well,
enjoy doing that. And it's actually quite productive for me because I don't know, when you post and you share, do you find that actually the act of sharing it actually increases your clarity on the topic?
I think so because it makes you actually to go through it again. Often when writing or creating the content, sometimes you discover something that you didn't know before and requires maybe some additional research. So I think
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, so I think I enjoy that kind of, what do I really think, and trying to work out how to express that. So I do write a lot of blogs, probably far too many blogs, but I think content generally is like, or if you want to get the best out of the content, it's not just about what sharing what will perform, it's about sharing what matters for you. So I see content posts as part of my hobbies as well, because it's like creative expression in some senses.
I actually like that you mention it because it's honestly not easy, like to be consistent, maybe every day keep posting. But if it's something that you enjoy, that maybe you are excited about or that you just like doing, it just makes it easier to do, doesn't it?
Yeah. And literally just before this call, we went upstairs to look at some stuff. We got a team upstairs here. And there's a whole load of stuff going on in the news. And it was like, oh, I'll just talk about that on TikTok today. And it's just like, it's fluid. And I
Yeah.
also think, getting those ideas out is quite rewarding. Expressing yourself is quite rewarding. But also, that ability, I think, I mean, we're going off topic of hobbies here, but I think more and more social media is looking for that, what do people really think and who is this person really, that kind of human bit. And I think that's just because we've had an era of like Instagram perfection. We've now got the AI, which makes incredible stuff, and I love it. I think there is that element of, I want to know the person, not just their content.
Yep. Such as maybe more human and more personalized, who's actually
Yeah,
behind it. Yes.
yeah, like connection. I think even though LinkedIn is a platform and it's social, people want deeper connections, and I think that's going to be a real kind of facet of the next decade as we grapple with where AI sits, where we sit, that people will crave more deeper relationships and connection.
I agree, and I see it the same way. I was just about to add when you mentioned that you like to write articles or blogs that you write on Substack and a LinkedIn newsletter as well. So for people who are interested, definitely make sure to check it out.
Thank you. Free promo. Thanks.
And Dean, what about the books? Do you read books? And if so, have you got any recommendations?
Yes. So I actually like 48 Laws of Power. That's a real good book.
From Robert Greene, right?
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with everything he shares, but I find the book really interesting. I have a copy of it by the side of my bed and try and just read a little bit of it. Another good book that I've read, and it's real old school, is Sales Letters That Sizzle.
Haven't heard of that one, honestly.
It's really old, right? And it's an old school book about how they wrote letters for post and how they would persuade you to sign up for that credit card or buy that thing or tear off that coupon and send it back. And I think even though the world's moved on, the fundamentals of how do we persuade or help people see the value in doing something or engaging with us is the same. It's just the medium of how we do it. It's digital now, it was on paper, but the principles are the same. So it's an old school book, it's hard to get hold of, but I bought about 5 copies when I found them on eBay, and it's just rich of stuff that will help you see this is what we do. So that's probably
Mhm.
my go-to. And then the other one is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. I like Mark. He's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done a follow-up one which I haven't read yet, with a red cover, I think, but I've not read that one yet.
I believe that the one you mentioned is orange, and maybe the new one I would assume is maybe like a light blue, if I'm not mistaken. But I cannot remember the
Yeah,
title either.
the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck's in orange, but I'm sure it might be blue, but I've seen a red one by him as well. Maybe it's a different book, different
Or I
author.
might be wrong. I don't remember. But it's a great
Yeah.
ship, and I will make sure to check out the second one. Thank you for that. And Dean, I know that you achieved a lot already, a lot on your plate, but still, are there any plans or goals or anything that you would be willing to share for the audience, maybe to wait for or to be excited about?
Oh, what's the big goal? Oh, I'm actually working on my second book. So I published a book last year. It went out with Wiley, and it was my first book writing experience. And so this year, I'm going to be putting out another book, hopefully before the end of the year, which I'm really excited about. And I think my first book went into a lot of ideas about social selling and building a business online. But I feel like my second book will go further into that, because I feel like a lot of the challenges we have are not about online, they're about us online. The way we think, our mindset, our emotions, our mentality,
Mhm.
all of those things. And you'll have seen it as well, Thomas, that people, like, you have to really understand yourself and understand your customer to really do well. And that, what do they say? If you understand psychology, you understand marketing and you understand sales. Psychology is pretty key to like achieving anything, because you're trying to understand other people's perspective. So my second book is actually going to be more about that stuff, whereas the first one was quite tactical.
That's a
So I'm
good,
excited for that.
yeah, that's a big goal, and we'll be excited as well. So hope it goes well. And then, Dean, we discussed it already, but can you please summarize where people can find you, follow you, and promote any of your services?
Yeah. So my main presence is obviously LinkedIn. So you can find my LinkedIn profile, Dean Seddon, there. And then the big one is my Substack newsletter, which is Signal Newsletter. And my podcast is Expert in Demand, which is all about interviewing and helping people position themselves so that they have more demand than supply.
Mhm. I will, as always, add any links to the show notes. And as I know, Dean, you've been to many podcasts, but is there like a question that you wish someone asked you but did not ask yet?
Oh, oh. Is there a question that somebody's not asked me, but I'd love them to ask? Mm, do you know, it would probably be something really basic, and it would be, how do I find my niche?
That's a good one.
And the reason I say that one is because I meet a lot of people who are in multiple minds about who their target audience is. And I see them going round and round in circles where they can't quite decide one, then flip to another. And I'd love to chat to them more and say, well, let's think about that in more detail, because until you settle that question, it's going to be hard.
I know that I want to be respectful of time and it will take a while to dive into it, but have you got maybe faster answer or want to leave it for the next person who's going to interview? Completely up to you.
The fast answer is if you observe what I found, that my niche was already inside me. I know that sounds a bit woo woo. I already knew it, but my head would not let me choose it. It was already there. I already knew who it was. Every time I wrote something, it automatically, almost by autopilot, pivoted to that group. And instead of just going with it, my brain was trying to be the accountant going, well, don't close that door because you might make more money. So I think most people know what their niche is already. If they look at who they've worked with, they look at who they enjoy working with, they look at where they deliver the most value. It's just more of what they're already doing. But the act of not noticing that and not settling that puts them in a holding pattern that makes it hit and miss or yo-yo roller coaster revenue and pipe.
Yeah, that's well explained, and I hope that the next person who's doing the podcast with you will address this earlier so that there is more time to actually dive deeper into it. And so then, Dean, I think we can finish. I want to say a big thank you, because not only I appreciate your time, and despite your experience and strong presence, I appreciate that you were willing even to talk about things that doesn't mean only success, such as even like a less polished things that some people don't really discuss, and you are open, willing to talk about it. Appreciate all the insight and value you brought. Of course, we could spend much more time talking about it, but once again, thank you so much. I will leave any links in the show notes for people to check it out. So thank you for your time, and I will be happy to catch up anytime in the future again. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Thomas. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Produced by with Tomen. Check the show notes for all the links, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your feedback. Speak soon.